Welcome back. We're now at our fourth episode of the Skype for Business broadcast series for IT pros. Jamie, Stark, and I, Sean Wilson, are going to be here today to talk about
Cloud PBX. Oh my goodness, we're actually here. This has been, it's funny, when we first started talking about this series, it was this topic, it was this time that I was thinking ahead to. And so luckily we've had 3 episodes now to kind of get some of the kinks out. And to to get ready to do this. So this is amazing. It's fantastic to be here. Thank you all for coming along with us on this little bit of a ride. This is our Asia time zone.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes, totally. And it's funny because yours was you wanted Cloud PBX, and I wanted to have the conversation last week about meetings and broadcast, and Albert and I got to do that, and we had to learn some great things about lighting and cameras and how well we turning on the lights really makes a difference actually in the
even more so now because of course we broadcast out of Redmond in the Pacific Northwest. We have a high latitude. And it's dark outside right now.
And it's 5 o'clock, and it's dark.
This is one of the things about living up here is that you go to work in the dark and you go home in the dark when it's the winter time. The summer's great, but yeah.
Hey, the best part about the summer is you can always get 18 holes of golf in after work, right? So, hey, just wanted to kind of recap from last week. We had the meetings and we had some great poll questions. You'll see the Bing Pulse come out today too as well, and it gives us sentiment, kind of tells us your feelings and thoughts, but wanted to kind of follow up because we asked a couple questions. One that actually was really surprising for me was the question that we asked was how many people were using meetings within their company. We actually had 78% of the people that responded actually said they were using meetings, Skype for Business for meetings.
That's awesome.
And we know that the majority of our audience for this tends to be online. We'll eventually start to bring in some of those brethren from the server side because of the conversation we had today about Cloud PBX and your whole world of telephony.
Definitely.
But we also had a couple of others. One was 82% of people were actually planning on using the broadcast technology.
Yeah, and no, that's what's it's kind of crazy. We literally started putting this together today and kind of plugging everything in sometime around 4 o'clock. And so, we had the meeting scheduled and we had all the kind of piece parts in place. But, you and I, we sit down, Praveen's also, joined us in the room. We sit down, we kind of get this stuff up and running, we plug everything in and now we're broadcasting, and now we know we can have an audience of thousands. It really is just a very transformative technology. And it's one of the things that, is so exciting about what we're bringing to market.
Totally. The last one, and then I'll let you get into your and by the way, if you don't know Jamie really well, he has an affinity for telephony. And by the affinity, I would actually turn the camera, but I'm afraid I wouldn't get us back into pan view to show that he actually has 4 different handsets on his desk of desk phones.
I do actually, and there's a couple more that are up there as well that I haven't plugged in right now.
So, but the last one was our PSTN conferencing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Traditional telephony people that understand the enterprise voice side, and then what we're talking about Cloud PBX. But then there's the whole world of meetings and using your big telco bridge, knowing your PIN, and trying to change those things. We actually found out that about 65% of people were actually thinking of moving away from that and move to the PSTN conferencing offered by us. So that was really interesting for us to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so kind of what's special about this time frame now is that we have brought out to market the price list preview for the types of licensing that are going to include PSTN conferencing, Cloud PBX, and our PSTN calling service in the U.S. And so now that information, you'll see it out on blogs and different news articles and stuff that really kind of hit earlier this week of lots of folks talking about all these different services, how you can add them onto your Office 365 subscription, and so effectively, they haven't been launched. We are still doing an official launch a little bit later on this year, but we have an opportunity now just to kind of talk freely about all of the different elements of the the new services and the new features that we're bringing to market.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Hey, we should probably give them a little bit of a taste of what they're in for today, because normally, if anybody's tuned in, it's typically just a FaceTime with us. But we brought in, it's as we said, it's our fourth. We're now starting to get the feel. So we're actually going to attempt some excellent technologies, usage of new technologies to do some screen sharing, to actually give you some real life experiences working with Cloud PBX and assigning numbers and doing that. So why don't we kind of get started and talk a little bit about Cloud PBX?
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, absolutely. So so you'll notice, we have our laptops open here, which is slightly different than what we've done in the past. Actually, just for those that are interested, the way that we have this set up in here is that my workstation's video output is actually going over to Sean's workstation using an HDMI capture card. And so then from there, Sean has the ability to go and push the video from my workstation out onto the broadcast meeting. And so you'll be able to kind of see everything that I'm doing here. Now you won't be able to see me as I'm doing it, but that's okay, because it's going to be kind of boring as I talk through this stuff and kind of show a little bit of what's happening. So let's go ahead and switch over to where you guys are seeing my workstation here. There's been a few different variations of this really kind of canonical demo that we've done for Cloud PBX and PSTN calling and PSTN conferencing. It all starts within the Office 365 admin center for Skype for Business. And so you see that up here. I've done this. We've done these demos now in many different cases. This is the first time I think that I've done it live. I've done a few of these that have been recorded for our sales teams to use to kind of understand how things work. We've done a few of these for some partner teams, and there's one that I recorded a couple weeks ago that we're going to release in a little while. I don't know why I'm emoting to the camera, because you actually can't see us now, but anyway. So in essence, this is what you see in the Skype for Business Admin Center. I just dropped straight into the voice subsegment, and you see I've got a bunch of different users here. This is just a demo tenant where I've got a bunch of different users. Some of them have numbers assigned, some of them don't. So let me just go in, and I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick Carrie here. And so Carrie is a user. Carrie has a license that's assigned for voice, but Carrie doesn't have a phone number assigned. And so I can go in here, and I can click into and assign Carrie a number. And it's a pretty straightforward activity to do so. One of the things, though, that happens when I go and I click in to assign that number is, you'll see from this drop down, I've got a set of numbers that are already kind of a part of the tenant.
So let me ask. So you said that those are already part of the tenant. Where are you getting those numbers from?
Exactly. So let me go back over here, and let me show you under the phone numbers tab. These are all the different phone numbers that we have associated with this tenant. And if I want to go and add in new phone numbers to the tenant, I click on the plus, and I get into this little wizard that allows me to add in numbers from a whole bunch of different places. So I'm going to put Praveen on the spot here, because a lot of times he doesn't get an opportunity to interact with us as we're doing stuff. So Praveen, pick a state. Pick your favorite state.
Colorado.
Colorado, excellent. So in Colorado, we've got a few different choices for phone numbers. We've got the 720 area code in Denver, 719 in Pueblo, or 970 in Grand Junction. What do you like?
970.
970. So you're a Grand Junction kind of guy. Okay. So I can go and I can, ask for a certain quantity of numbers here. And this actually works a little bit like doing concert tickets. If you look down at the very bottom here, it says I got 10 minutes left to acquire numbers. Essentially what you can do is you can use this to go through and kind of create an order for a whole bunch of different numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and add in another 5 numbers from Phoenix into this. And here are my 5 numbers from Phoenix. And I can go and continue to stack up on this order. I can go and I can look through the specific numbers that are shown here, and I can see what numbers, if there are some numbers in here I like, some other numbers that I don't like. Oh, and that's cute. Someone actually caught that I have an actual phone sitting next to me with a phone number set up, and they try to call it. So good on you, internet, for catching that. Yes, this stuff actually is live. Yes, this stuff actually does work. These are real live phone numbers that we can go and that we can bring into the tenants.
You've actually provisioned that like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally. I know. I mean,
so that actually. So a couple things. One that I want to kind of say. So those numbers that you're getting those numbers from Microsoft. Correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So there's no extra step of going to a telco or some other type of service provider. Microsoft in this case is actually the PSTN service provider. So when you buy the PSTN service from us, you get the ability to go and get groups of numbers from area codes from all around the country. Again, this part of the service is only available in the U.S. at this time, and then go and assign those to your tenant. Now, one of the questions we get a lot is hey, how do you guys deal with area codes? Can I get numbers from all the different area codes? Some of you phone wonks may know that some area codes are more popular than others. So Manhattan's 212. You can buy those area code. You can buy numbers in those area codes on eBay. They're so valuable. Yeah. 415 in San Francisco is starting to get kind of the same way. So we've got coverage all around the U.S., but not in necessarily every single area code. A lot of times there'll be overlays. So you can see here, I can go to my, I can go and I can grab my numbers. I can go to my user. I'm going to go and drop down in here to Carrie. I'm going to assign a phone number to Carrie. I'm just going to pick one here from Tacoma, and then I think I've got a Tacoma address. Oh, I'll have to give her a Spokane address. So the way this address thing works is that because this is a real actual phone number, we also need to ensure that this phone number is registered with the 911 authority, with the ALI database for 911. And so when somebody with this phone number, they dial 911, they're going to have their address that's registered in here be sent up to the emergency services. Oh. So you actually can't assign a phone number without having an address associated with it. Okay. But now the phone number and the address can be from different locations. Like we don't tie those tightly together. So if you want to have a phone number in New York, but your real office is always going to be in Colorado, you can do that sort of stuff. And just you want to make sure that the number that's associated or the location associated with that user is where they're really truly exactly where they're located. Exactly. Yeah, totally. It's a real location.
How long does it take to do that provisioning that you just did?
Well, I just did it, right? So this is all live. So I just assigned it. The changes have been made, and so now you see that Carrie's got a real number there. People on the internet, you don't need to call Carrie's number because there's no user logged in under Carrie right now. We're gonna blow away all these numbers after this broadcast anyway. So they'll exist for about 90 days in the ether, where we're not going to be using them, and then they'll be recycled back into for other folks to use in the tenant. But so that's one way to do it, right? Is you can go through and you can assign these kind of onesie twosie in the admin console. Of course, I couldn't do this legitimately here with Sean, our manageability TPM, sitting next to me without having some PowerShell, right?
Well, I mean, come on, really?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire up this script, and essentially what this script does is it goes and it takes. Oh, of course, when I run it, I logged out of my credentials, so give me 1 second.
While you're doing that,
while I'm restarting my PowerShell script.
Excellent. Let me ask a couple quick questions, because we've got obviously Asia on the call. We might even have some people in EMEA that decide to stay up till 2:00 in the morning for this, right? We're going to talk a little bit about how they can use the same functionality though if they're not in the U.S., right? Like use the Cloud PBX.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely talk to that. So I got my my PowerShell up and running again. I'm gonna fire this up one more time. So what happens is that my credentials will expire after so I ran the test, of course, during the half an hour or so that we were setting this thing up. That all worked great, and then my creds expired. So anyway, so now my creds are good, and you can see here now at the bottom now my phone numbers coming through. Essentially, what this script replicates is getting an input from an HR type system that has users and their location and where we need to have phone numbers assigned to them, right? And so it takes that as input, and then it goes and it looks up and it says to the tenant, okay, hey, do I have those phone numbers available? If not, let's go and assign them. And so I just did for Albert, Allie, and Ann here. Those phone numbers just got assigned. You don't see it here because I need to go and refresh the page. So I just refreshed, and now you're going to see when this repopulates, I've got these phone numbers now assigned for Ann, Allie, and Albert, and those are all done again with PowerShell. So the idea here is that you can script all this stuff. You can just make all this stuff happen transparently. So we can go ahead and switch back to video now.
Excellent. Hey, so now that we're back.
Hey, you're seeing us.
Hey, we're back. Can you tell us a little bit? We talked about that, and we talked about PSTN calling from us. We're able to provide that telephony service from Microsoft for PSTN, correct? But what if a customer is not in the U.S. or doesn't necessarily has an existing PBX infrastructure or gateways that they don't want to have to, they bought it a couple years ago, generally accepted accounting principles. They haven't depreciated it for the appropriate 5 years. And their accounting team says, no, I'm not depreciating this entire thing right away. We need to figure out that transition path. What does that look like by bringing us into the cloud?
That's absolutely right. And we actually talked about this the first time. I think that was it the first time that we talked? No, it was with Praveen, actually. Yeah. It was our second show. We talked about this a little bit. So Cloud PBX is available to everyone worldwide. You can license Cloud PBX either standalone. You can kind of add it into your Office 365 plan, or it comes with the E5 suite, the kind of new collection of software and services that we're putting together, and that we've just kind of announced and put in the latest price list. And so with that, Cloud PBX being available worldwide, for folks in the US, they of course have the ability to use the service that we just talked about here to get numbers and to do domestic and international dialing. For folks that are outside the US, and of course for customers like you said that aren't interested in taking on the service right now, they can use Skype server software running on premises and connect that with Office 365.
And there's a couple of different flavors to that, right?
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit more,
totally
how that kind of works.
Totally. So for existing customers, and there's actually been a bunch of existing on-premises customers that have reached out on Yammer that have this type of scenario. For existing customers, you can just use your existing pool. So it needs to have a 2013 or a Skype for Business level edge. So it can't be a super down level version of Link or Skype for Business. But essentially, that server pool acts as the on-prem interop gateway as such into your on-premises PSTN environment. So whether you have a PBX, whether you have an SBC running that, where you have a SIP trunk running that, that software goes and connects up with those pieces of telephony infrastructure on your prem, and it's just the same server bits that you have today. It's just the same pool you have today. All you do is you connect that pool up to Office 365 using a split domain connection. And that's the kind of the beginning of it. From that point, you move users onto Office 365, and then you configure those users to have them have all their PSTN go in and out through that on-prem set of server software. Excellent. And then from the next hop, from the case of like what we talk to going out of that server software, that could be, again, it could be your existing PBX from a variety of different vendors. It could be a gateway. It could be a SIP trunk from a variety of different carriers, whatever it is. Essentially, it allows you to bring your carrier, that contract, and those circuits into Cloud PBX. And so for the balance of the world, the way that they're going to experience Cloud PBX is through this type of connection. Now, again, that's the first kind of way to do it, is that you can use an existing server pool.
So
but
if you didn't have that,
right, exactly.
Yeah. Hey, we know that the population that's that typically attends this is the majority online, right? So,
exactly.
They're not set up with split domain right now.
Totally. And we want to make that as super easy as possible. And so the way that we're doing that is you'll be able to download essentially a new edition of Skype for Business Server, calling it the Cloud Connector Edition, right? And so the Cloud Connector Edition it's packaged virtual machines that you run on hardware. Again, it's hardware you got to run on your prems because it's intermediating between the PBX, which doesn't know anything about, talking to the cloud, and Office 365, that of course has the auth and the identity and the security and all the firewall traversal protocols and everything else that we need to go set up communications and sessions. If you license Cloud PBX, this software is available to you at no cost. Yeah. So you can just, we're going to have it available to download.
You put it on your own hardware. We got specs that we'll put out there, right?
Exactly. And a lot of this documentation is actually now slowly rolling out to TechNet. And in fact, we did this in support of Preview. And so we've had this scenario of on-premises PSTN connectivity. This is kind of what we call this collection of different ways to do this. This on-prem PSTN connectivity, we've had documentation now out on TechNet in support of Preview. So if you're interested in kind of learning a little bit more underneath the skins of how this works, that's all available and it's all been published. So definitely go and check it out. So today, again, customers can use their existing pool. If you don't have an existing pool, you just want to be able to set up. I'll have Cloud PBX do calls inbound and outbound. You can set that up and you can have that going with the packaged VMs. We do expect, as time goes on, partners are going to be creating sets of software and hardware, and then kind of selling that as a whole solution, right?
Like a little box, right? Like, is it? Question that I have though, because we're talking a lot about from the infrastructure standpoint, right? And doing that. What are some of the client side capabilities? Like, what are we talk about you and your handsets on your desk, and clients on the PC. What are some of the dependencies that we need to look for?
That's a great question. So the kind of set of features that are coming out with Cloud PBX initially are really around end user calling. So I can place calls, I can answer calls, I can divert them to voicemail, I can forward my calls, I can SIM ring, I can do team calling, I can do delegation. So all of the kind of base set of calling features of Skype for Business are supported. They're supported on all of our PCs and Mac client. They're supported on IP phones. They're supported on mobile. So we're really looking to take our kind of base calling experience for end users across all the different clients that they use, and have that be available.
So that's very similar to the fact that majority of companies. So some people will classify those as an information worker. Right?
Sure, yeah.
Somebody that is going to use the basic functionalities of a phone.
That's right.
Not necessarily a call center or heavy duty different pieces, but specifically what you and I would use every day to do our job.
Exactly.
Sitting at our desk,
totally
calling people, doing what we need to do.
And as you heard inadvertently, and I had to unplug it because someone out there called this phone. Like this is a Polycom VVX 600. It was signed in with my account, and you heard it call, you heard it ring just a few minutes ago. And I probably have 100 voicemails on the thing right now, based off of everyone realizing that it is in fact real,
and that we can provision it in right.
I know, totally. That this stuff is just up and running so quickly, and that's it's weird to use. It's weird to think through. It really does challenge a lot of what we think about software and how phone systems operate. I mean, I know there are carriers out there that do a really good job of provisioning numbers on SIP trunks, where you can go out to a web page or you can go out to a programmatic service and you can just go and you can request a certain amount of numbers. And those numbers are then operating on your SIP trunk within a couple minutes. But to have it be where I go and I can all within PowerShell, just have all this stuff automated and just have it kind of work automatically. been playing with it for the last 2-3 weeks. It really is fun just to be able to do this, and I don't know, it challenges a lot of what we think about.
TDM.
Yeah, no, totally.
So if you're not a telephony person, so I'm not a telephony person in any regard, right? I'm definitely a meetings person by nature and video by my background, and I can tell you that it changes the paradigm of, the guys held up in the closet with the racks and racks of copper and PBXs everywhere to really do this. But one of the things tied to that is really that, you were talking about assigning numbers. What about if you already have numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So that same admin console for Office 365 where you saw the ability for me to go and grab numbers, we also have a porting system that's built in as well to that admin console. And so if you're doing something really sophisticated where I'm porting from a few different telcos and I'm doing discontiguous number ranges and it's 10,000 numbers, we've got a help desk, we've got a service desk to go and help customers through that. Yeah, awesome. Absolutely. But for fairly straightforward, I've got a group of 50 numbers, it's from a single telco. Yeah, there's a whole wizard type of process, experience to go through. And it is one of those experiences though, as much as we can do great stuff with the software to make this pretty clean, it's one of those experiences that really is based on very old telephony in a way. So you've got to do stuff like look at your bill and make sure that the address that is on the bill is exactly the same that's in the order. If anything is off,
oh my gosh,
just by a micron, then the parlance of this is because the winning carrier, the carrier that's getting the numbers, in this case Microsoft, or the losing carrier, your incumbent who you're transferring from. The losing carrier, of course, has no motivation. Yeah, they have no incentive whatsoever to make this super easy.
So well, it doesn't work. So we'll just not tell you. Right?
Oh well, but you didn't capitalize AV, right? Or there's a period after the AV. So what we recommend for customers to do is send one number through as part of your test. Make sure you've got the end-to-end, that it all works, that all the information is correct, and then actually have your kind of full-blown port.
Awesome.
Now, so one of the things on the features, because we talked really quick around this end user features, and I get a lot of questions from folks, both from our field and on Yammer of, well, is the response group service up and running? And what about auto attendant? What about hunt group? What all these different things? Really, what we've been doing over the last couple of years is building up this fundamental foundation around numbers, around calling, around PSTN traffic, around dial-in conferencing and meetings and all of these really foundational services. And so now we can send calls all around the world. We can set this stuff up. We can really operate all these things at scale. And with that, of course, we've done these calling features as well. Now we don't have to do those fundamental pieces anymore, right? So all of our engineering effort is now from launch forward gets to be turned into
what can we do to build new and more, right?
Additional calling features, primarily kind of back-end server-side call management capabilities around setting up hunt groups, around setting up the corporate auto attendant, the dial by name, dial by number type functionality, setting up the after hours, hey, you've called, where our office is closed, all those types of capabilities. Really now, those are the ones that
focus on.
Yeah, and awesome. So my work, in addition, for the next month or so, in addition to telling all the great story about what Cloud PBX means and what it's going to do, is nailing down the public Office 365 roadmap for the next set of features and capabilities that are coming.
Excellent.
And because it's in the cloud, now you don't need to have a whole server reinstalled in order to take advantage of this stuff.
Oh, yeah, the whole concept of the cloud is one of those ones that so coming from being at Microsoft, I love being at Microsoft because we get technology 18 months before everybody else.
Yeah.
and they say we do dog food, so we're our first and best customer, and sometimes it's bleeding edge, like real bleeding edge. But I gotta tell you, the cloud means that our customers are now getting that stuff so much faster that they're now there with us and they're being able to take advantage of it. And especially when we start talking about things like, unified communications and telephony, where, we're talking, it used to be full PBX upgrades for features.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And now we're able to take care of that from our solutions. I think is awesome.
Yeah. So when Hunt Groups becomes available, like you will log into the admin console and there will be another tab there and you'll click on it and you'll be able to go and configure your Hunt Group. And that's how we're going to be delivering this stuff. It will just show up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is so exciting and so different, transformational, I think, for the space. So that's one of the things. So know that now our work really does move into that sphere 100%. And so you're going to find that in the coming year, the rate at which we're able to prosecute new phone features really is going to increase at a pretty dramatic rate. And so it's so exciting.
One of the things that voice is one of those things that just can't fail, right? Like we know because we've lived it. People say, look, it's got to work all the time. We're now talking about stuff running over the internet, using our cloud service. Can we take a couple minutes and talk about what we're doing with ExpressRoute?
Yeah,
really,
absolutely.
I think that just to kind of set the stage is prioritization of that voice traffic over, regardless of if you're on-prem in your network or if you are in the cloud and you're now sharing it across the internet, is paramount and key, right? So tell me a little bit about what we've done to really focus on how we're going to ensure Office 365 and your environment still have those pristine.
Yeah, absolutely. And clearly this is something that we've done on the server side now for a very long time. This is the kind of deep network integration is something that really is a hallmark of Skype for Business Server when it comes to prioritizing packets, working with VLANs, doing call admission control, and all these things that really involve having a very tight relationship between what's happening in the server and the application space and what's happening on the network, even extending into software-defined networking, right? Which is a whole other topic.
Yeah, we'll finally figure out some time to talk about SDN, right?
So one of the things that we saw very, very quickly was we want to be able to have a deterministic private connection available for customers to set up between their networks on premises and Office 365. And that is using Azure ExpressRoute. So Azure has had this service now available for, I want to say about 6 or 9 months, where customers can have a direct connection between their networks and their Azure workloads. That is now available for Office 365 as well. So it's the same Azure ExpressRoute service, but now you have the opportunity to also have that take advantage of your Office 365 workloads in addition to your Azure workloads. And of course, Skype for Business, we definitely like using a lot of the bandwidth. We want to have that bandwidth be well prioritized, and this is one of the key workloads, right, for ExpressRoute.
And the thing that's wonderful is that it follows the same methodologies we use for our QoS marketing, and the Azure ExpressRoute basically ties into your WAN, right? And the advantage to that is it's going to pass those DSCP markings back and forth between the two networks so that you ensure that end-to-end prioritization. Right?
It's actually a 3-network thing if you think about it. It's the customer network, it's your carrier network, because your carrier is the one who's facilitating the connection, right? Yeah, and then obviously Azure and Office 365 and Microsoft's kind of global data network, right? Yeah, exactly. And so part of the work to enable this actually involves having the carriers do the right things by moving your packets across their network. And so you'll notice if you go and you look at the carriers that are supporting Azure ExpressRoute, most of them support Azure ExpressRoute, and a subset of them today support Office 365 because the support of Office 365 actually involves also doing the right things with all the DSCP markings.
Excellent.
Yeah. So no, this is something that we highly recommend customers do as they move into production with Cloud PBX, and frankly, with doing meetings and video, right? Like we definitely want to ensure that Customers have a great experience with Office 365. Azure ExpressRoute really does offer the opportunity to be able to facilitate that. Now, you don't need to run, technically, you don't need to run Azure ExpressRoute. So if you're curious about Cloud PBX, you're curious about Office 365 for meetings, you haven't experienced that yet, you can go and you can set all this stuff up and run it over the naked internet. Like you can run it over your normal internet connection. Oh, that's the other news that we have to talk about too.
Yeah.
Just today, we released the update to the Skype for Business bandwidth calculator.
Yes, we did. And did you know that it includes Skype for Business Online in the calculator?
Exactly. So
right?
This is the way. So the question a lot of times becomes, well, I don't know what level of bandwidth to order from my carrier. I don't know what level to order from ExpressRoute. The Skype for Business bandwidth calculator. It wasn't just that we went through the existing bandwidth calculator and changed everything to blue.
Yeah.
No. It now handles Silk. It now handles online flows, and this is absolutely now I think the path for customers to go and figure out like what they need for bandwidth.
Yeah. So to kind of piggyback what you were saying is you can go out, let's pilot this, test it, whatever. If you really are serious about doing voice in the cloud, strongly consider ExpressRoute, namely because voice by nature, being UDP, right, in nature, is going to be less resilient to troublesome networks.
Absolutely.
And so therefore, really my recommendation, because I'm a network guy, and I love telling the networking 101 of TCP versus UDP, and but really is the ExpressRoute is really your only way that you're gonna ensure that end-to-end. You just experienced that our light just went off. Oh, and the light's back on.
Excellent. So glad we're not in the dark anymore. It really is starting to get dark outside.
So
I guess we're moving around.
I guess we weren't moving around enough or whatever. And actually, it's the efficiency of the lighting at Microsoft uses motion detectors. So I guess we weren't moving enough. But,
next time we'll have to stop and do jumping jacks 20 minutes into the broadcast.
Excellent. Yeah. So is there anything like from a closing thoughts that you want to share today?
God, there's going to be a lot of information coming out about Cloud PBX. There's a lot of detail behind all the things that we've talked about. There's detail around what countries are available for PSTN conferencing. You and Albert kind of touched on that a little bit. There's detail around how the on-premises PSTN connectivity scenarios operate that we can get into in further depth. There's obviously detail around all the different management facility that's there, how to, the different PowerShell scripts and all those sorts of things. We're actively, pushing out a lot of content around this, but if there are specific questions that you have, well, it's one of the values of the Yammer group. Exactly.
Right? And we actually, at this point, it's become a great environment to not only provide feedback, but also get input from people. And it's driving a lot of the conversations, even within our team, of what's the next topics to really talk about.
Yeah, no, that's very, very much so. We're looking at this stuff daily. You could see that, me and Sean and Praveen, like we're on and we're working to, answer all the questions that we can. We really do value the feedback. We really do value the back and forth. And yeah, so I think we should talk about what's coming up next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So clearly, there's been a lot of conversation about the Mac client. We know that it's a sore point. Clearly, we want to be able to address a lot of the questions, a lot of the concerns you have. And so we are doing everything we can to have our next broadcast be about the Mac client.
Now it's not. Now the piece behind this is we want to make sure when we come to the session that we're actually able to give you something of value. So we are driving for the next one to be it, and this is not a hey, I'm backing out of that. We will not come to this broadcast without the right information.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So, but stay posted because we will definitely be updating what we're actually going to share.
We want it to be purposeful. We want it to be valuable for you guys. And if it needs to, if it needs to be the next one after the one that's coming up, then we will be. But regardless, know that we hear this feedback. We hear it loud and clear, and we are doing everything we can to make sure that we get the information out to everybody. And so, yeah, no, understand. We hear that.
We hear it very
much.
loud and clear. One of the things I was going to say is also a couple of the other topics that we will probably be seeing as we're coming out.
Yeah.
Is some of the new device stuff. I know
Yeah,
the
definitely.
meeting devices stuff is definitely going to be a conversation.
I'd love to be able to do a whole session just on PowerShell and administration for Cloud PBX. Office 365. I mean, you saw
I think
the
we should do
script
it for
that I can
Office
go through.
365.
Yeah, no, totally.
Totally.
There's a bunch of reporting for Office 365 as well. We didn't talk about CDRs. We didn't talk about the call quality dashboard.
CQD online that we'll be releasing around the same time as well. So
I think that there's an early version of it.
I have it on mine.
Yeah.
So we can definitely, it's part of preview, and I've got it.
Right, cool.
And it was really cool because I got to see actually how much we were using our
oh wow,
our this demo tenant.
That's so great.
And you could see because it was like completely flat, and then BJ went and did the.
That's right. That's right.
And it's just all so with that, I think it's probably time to bid adieu. And
absolutely. Thank you guys so much for coming to the fourth Skype for Business broadcast. We're going to keep doing these, and we're really enjoying it. And thanks for the participation. Thanks for the engagement. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Thanks.